Head of Intelligent Mobility at Atkins Global UAE. He's going to talk about electrical vehicle study for RTA. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about Connected Autonomous, and then going to delve into a project we've just delivered for RTA on electric vehicles and the strategy going forward for Dubai. So a little bit about Atkins. You probably heard recently we've been bought by S&C Lavalin, so we've just increased our staff numbers by 35,000 overnight, which is quite nice, and changed our demographics slightly. So this is a little bit old news. And as an organisation, we look at engineering, consultancy within Atkins, project management, cost management with our Faithful and Gould, and Acuity, which looks at strategic and PPP, PFI type of entities. So intelligent mobility, what we say is intelligent mobility is really about connecting these different transportation systems and pushing this data to the users. So, really looking at how me as an end user can really have a seamless transportation journey through cities, through countries, and globally going forward. Some of the work we've delivered globally based around connected autonomous and specific intelligent mobility projects. Lots of in the US on connected autonomous, writing some of the standards with NHTSA in respect of how we put vehicles on the road network. A number of white papers delivered on the future trends of transportation in respect of where the market's going and on the future trends globally as well. And again, we can pull on these resources and this technology and understanding globally again how it fits within the Middle East and specifically within Dubai. So to go a little bit more into connected and autonomous, and following some of the mega trends in respect of urbanization, so there's a real shift around percentage of residency within cities. Cities are growing, the urban environment is changing, so it needs a change on the way we view mobility and the way we view transportation, and obviously in respect of climate change and the reduction for the real changes in respect of for Dubai, 16% reduction in carbon emissions by 2020. So a real focus on how that reflects on our choice of mobility. Again, demographics. Our population is changing. We're living longer. So again, how do we move the impaired around the transportation network? And technology. Some of the technology drivers now are really changing again the way we really view our future, and some of the technology drivers out there that are really pushing the envelope, which is causing us to, as planners, as designers, as integrators, to really think about how this works. So what do these trends mean to us? So based on obviously the mega trends and how it's changing the view and the vision around sustainability, designing carbon-free environments as much as possible, and efficiency within transportations, within city design, integration, and obviously user focus. When we talk about intelligent mobility and mobility as a service, it's really focusing on the end user and really changing transportation to meet the individual rather than the other way around. And a nice quote I like to put on here is that whatever we design for, we will get. As I say, build it and they will come. So if we design environments for cars, we attract cars. If we design environments for people, we attract people. So again, it's this real view on how cities are changing. With this change in transportation, as Scott mentioned, like Hyperloop and other entities, and it's really changing the map of the transport corridor. And quite a nice one here is that, when we talk about autonomous transportation, because we buy a car, we invest heavily in the car, we insure it, we wash it every Saturday, or we take it to the garage to get washed every Saturday. but most of its time it's just sat part idle. So there's a big investment there that just gets wasted, and we have to park them somewhere. So again, it's this real understanding of making our assets work better and work more efficiently. So what's the answer? Connected vehicles on the left there, and autonomous vehicles on the right. And to refresh people's minds around what we talk about autonomous vehicles, autonomous vehicles with no steering wheel, like the Google, we're talking about level 5. Concentrating currently now on around level 3 with like Mercedes and BMW, where you can just jump in them and the Teslas and run an autopilot. So it's this real shift around this highly automated vehicles that's really going to tip the scales in respect of transportation and congestion management and the use of vehicles going forward. And some of the work we did with NHTSA, again, it's where is the ownership, where is the liability, and how does that stand? So taking the model that the provider of the equipment should certify themselves against certain standards, because again, if you think about the authority that looks after the transportation network, should they be responsible for incidents with vehicles that are autonomous? So again, there's certain criteria within the NHTSA guides. Again, it's a good standard from the US, and again similar standards in the UK regarding the DFT that can be transitioned within an environment like the Middle East. The best of all worlds. What do CAVs give us? Again, it's efficiencies, it's benefits in respect of reduced carbon emissions, it's improved safety, which leads to improved air quality. And again, it's this sensation of feeling safe as well in an autonomous vehicle, because once we have this tipping scale of autonomous vehicles on a transportation network, these things don't tend to run into each other, because there's a system sat behind it where we've taken this human delay factor out of the systems. And it's not if, but it's when. So this is coming. It's there now. It's on the streets now. There's lots of investment in the technology by the providers that are pushing this into market, and it's a demand from the users that's really being fed. And picking one point up about safety, again, it's the primary directive of a provider of systems, because again they have to self-certify, so they've got to prove to the entities that these vehicles are safe. So the technology that's implemented within these vehicles is really safety critical, and the safety is paramount. And then moving on to the next steps around transportation, we talk about mobility as service. Again, it's focusing the individual against delivering a service via transportation. I want to go from A to B. I don't really care how I get there. I just need to get there by a certain time, and I want to spend a certain amount of money to do this. So my transportation may change during that route if I'm doing a large end-to-end journey, but I want the system to work for me. I don't want to have to think about how I'm going to get from A to B. I just need to get from A to B. And the second part of my presentation is really to go into a project recently we did with the government RTA here on about electric vehicle infrastructure. And RTA have really had the forethought in the region in respect of what is needed to help shift the view of the public into wanting to go on to zero emission vehicles, and what's needed there to go forward. So a number of visions and a number of agreed percentages of vehicles for green mobility have been implemented. And again, our study, which is at the bottom here, looked on all these different drivers. So this was at national level and at local level, to say, okay, then we've got a need for change, but what's driven that change, and why have we implemented that change? And some of the public facing figures on here is that for government fleet, for all new purchase vehicles, 10% of that fleet must be EV. or hybrid, and that pushes through into 2030 for the full fleet in Dubai, so the 1.6 million vehicles. 2% of this have got to be novated across to EV and hybrid by 2020, and then 10% by 2030. And what this means in actual figures is that by 2020, the target is for government fleet is 3,200 vehicles, with a total fleet of 34,000 in Dubai. So again, there's around 200 vehicles now, pure battery, but there's about another 400 on hybrid. And again, so it's a big shift into the number of vehicles required, and 275,000 by 2030. And if we look about how that links onto the infrastructure required to support this, DEWA have really pushed forward onto implementing 100 charging points last year, and another 100 charging points going to go in this year. So again, there's this real drive from DEWA as the energy provider to facilitate this change of vehicle purchases for EV, hybrid and plug-in hybrids, which equates to 555 charging stations by 2020. So again, we're talking about a lot of infrastructure investment here to make this possible. But again, with these harsh targets we're looking at for change, which part of it is driving the climate change, this infrastructure needs to be in place. Part of the study we implemented on a lot of global trending to understand what's happening with the rest of the world and where Dubai needs to be at the forefront of this, and which countries and which cities are really pioneering a change. Norway is really the panacea. It's really the end goal for a lot of the countries and cities of the world. China at the moment is a big investment on EV infrastructure. So again, it's and the US, particularly around the West Coast, about how they're changing their view on electric vehicles. And one interesting thing around the study was that we looked into alternative fuels, so hydrogen, and really around when that change is going to happen. So the prediction is by around 2030, the technology will be as an available state and available cost benefit that hydrogen will take over the battery vehicle and the hybrid vehicles, because it will become it's all around us. We just need to harness that. So hydrogen is there now as a fuel type, but it's not commercially viable currently. And we had a real look about what the uptake is on vehicles in respect to individuals and the personas around who are going to buy EVs and the reasons why. So like the tech savvy, the high income, the young generation around wanting to make a difference by buying a hybrid or electric vehicle, because I really want to make an impact on the environment. I want to have as much as a zero carbon footprint as possible. So again, a lot of work was done and a lot of investigations and surveys around public about what their real needs and wants are around electric vehicles. We also did a lot of work on, again, from a user point of view. I need to charge my vehicle. So where am I going to charge my vehicle, and the availability of these electric vehicles. So again, a lot of work was done around the design and the specifications and the standards going forwards around these DEWA supplied charging stations, the different rating charging stations, the sort of like the medium and fast type. And a lot of information was gathered from international standards to say, okay, for Dubai, the charging points need to be sort of like type 1s, type 2s, so type 2s and type 3s, should I say, to meet international standards. Obviously, Tesla has their own standards, and one real thought to leave you with really is that is Tesla the Apple of the EV world, because they're on their own standards, their own requirements, but it's a brand you want to buy. So, but you know, you have to sacrifice certain things when you do this.